Hey, welcome to the Redemption Recap. My name is Stephen. I am your host, joined today in studio, not online, not around the world, just right here in the flesh. Next to me, my co-host, Kayla. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, everyone.
So glad you're alive.
Thank you so much. Me too.
Great to see you. So today we've got a special edition of the Redemption Recap. We are going to recap an entire week.
Whew. Lot to cover.
Affectionately known as Church Week.
Church Week. One of the greatest weeks of the year.
One of the greatest weeks of the year. It was a great week. Yeah. And we're going to go back through it. So thanks for stopping by.
Welcome to the Redemption Recap, reminding you of what is happening here at Redemption. Here is today's episode.
All right, so last week we kicked off Church Week and didn't just kick it off. We kicked it off and ended it. All in the same week.
All in 1 week.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I know. We're incredible. How we accomplish things like getting through days. Okay. So we had 4 sermons last week.
Yeah.
And then we started off kind of like internal, like the church, us, and then we had some guests come in, and then we ended with some next steps. So I thought we'd just go kind of day by day, just for people to either relive Church Week last week, or if you missed it, and then you can just get
caught up,
get a quick recap. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So we'll start with Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
What happened on Monday?
I thought Monday was great. Monday you taught.
I did.
Yeah. So surprisingly enough, I thought it was great.
That is surprising.
Yeah. The Lord never ceases to do miracles.
He's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There's a fly in the studio. At some point in time during this recap, I'm going to kill this fly. Anyway.
If
Monday.
you see it dive bombing us, you know what's happening.
Yes.
Monday, I was telling you earlier today that I quite liked on Monday, there were 5 kind of statements that we talked about and rallied around. And the thing that I loved about it is I felt like no matter what season of life you're in your Christian walk, there's probably one of them that you can identify with.
Yep.
So the 5 statements were, I was lost despite my self-righteousness or my righteousness. I was saved despite my imperfections. I sinned despite my salvation. I am loved despite my failures, and I have a future despite myself.
Yeah.
And for each of those, there was kind of a corresponding verse that tied into each of those. And the thing that I think is great about that is no matter where you're at, there's probably one of those that you fall into. Mm-hmm. And there's the hope then of the second part of those statements. So like you can say like, despite my failures, I'm loved. And like, that is true. And like, I have a future despite myself, which is also true. And all of this is kind of anchored on the cusp of like really the gospel and what Christ has done for us and how through his death and resurrection, we are to live in the hope of the second part of each of those statements.
And that was the setup to the week because we wanted to root ourselves back in the fact that all ministry and our ability to not lose heart as followers of Christ in a crazy world that we live in is in the mercy of God. Like that's what it's rooted in. Yeah. And if you root your hope in motivations, like even like Church Week, great week. Yeah. But if your hope is going to be rooted in the inspiration, the moment of Church Week, it's going to wear out. Yeah. For some of us, it probably already has. Yeah. Or, it'll last a couple of weeks or months. You have to have a deeper motivation. Yeah. That motivation being the mercy of God. Correct. Yeah. And I think also those 5 things, they're like they're the progression of the Christian life, but they're also the cycle of the Christian life. Yeah. Because it seems like every time you go through the progression, you kind of start back at the beginning. Yep. Right. I don't know if it's because we like congratulate ourselves at the end of it. And so then we're like, well, no, I'm self-righteous again. And I would be lost even though I am.
Well, so and some of it too is just the layers of our faith, right? Like, because it almost ties in a little bit to the sanctification cycle. So like, it's like you're working through this process, you're getting a new identity, and then Christ takes you into like a deeper area that needs to be dealt with. And you're constantly just going through the cycle.
And it tied in well with what Mike talked about on Sunday, actually. Yeah. That like we grow, we start in the gospel, we grow in the gospel, we end in the gospel. Mm-hmm. And spiritual growth is just a process of applying the gospel into what it is that you're walking through right now. Yeah. Seeing that through a gospel lens, letting the gospel root out that which is wrong in you and replacing it with the proper perspective, which is what the second half of those statements were. Yeah. Right? Here's the wrong perspective, or the thing that is wrong in me. Yep. Here's the appropriate or the right perspective. Yeah. Perspective. Response plus perspective equals respective.
Not a real word.
Not a real word or a real thing. Moving on. Day two. Then Dr. Jared Moore was here.
Yes.
That was fun.
That was so fun.
And was the most Baptist sermon we've ever had in our church's history.
Yes.
So as a former Baptist, Kayla, what did you think?
Not a former Baptist, but I enjoyed it. I also had the privilege of starting to read Jared's book before he came,
Okay, yeah.
and also getting to talk to him around the church before he talked that night.
Yep.
And one of the statements I liked a lot that was in his book was he was talking about how the Christian life is one of continual repentance,
Which,
not perpetual sublimation.
okay, so explain sublimation to people.
So like sublimation is almost like the pushing down of like a negative desire for
Yeah.
a proper desire,
Yeah.
right? And
So what did he mean by that quote?
so oftentimes I think as Christians, we like will want to push down the desire, repress like any desires that are not sanctified or holy, instead of repenting right at the point of desire, asking God to like replace that with a good desire. And so oftentimes in our Christian walk, we can think that we're pursuing holiness or pursuing righteousness by just tamping down the things that are underneath, rather than addressing the things that are underneath, repenting of them, and then asking for that area to be sanctified.
Yeah, and then something new emerging out of it.
Yeah.
And Jared and I did a session for Clear Truth. And in that, we use the metaphor in this conversation around, like, no one would walk around plucking the heads off of dandelions in their yard going, wow, I'm sure my yard is going to stay beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, if you pluck the heads off of dandelions, the
They're
next
going
time
back.
it rains, like, they're coming back, and they're coming back in full force.
Yeah.
And that's not a good spiritual growth strategy.
Yeah.
A much better strategy is to, get the bottom, root the whole thing out. But also, what do you want to do? You want to spray. Like,
Yeah.
you get the spray. And as Jared was reminding us at the end, like, what is that? What kills the poison?
Yeah.
It's basic. It's prayer. It's worship. It's scripture. And then it is a deeper affection for Christ
Yeah.
at the bottom. And in this way, you could say, we're not just plucking up the dandelion, spraying it. We're actually then planting a flower.
Yeah.
Right? If you really, so then something beautiful is going to come up
Yeah.
where there was something ugly before.
Yeah, I liked how he had phrased that, the idea of like one of the greatest combats to sin is having proper affection for the Father, because the more your affections are set on him, the more revolting your sin becomes,
Yep.
the less that you want to participate in those things. And so how like one of the greatest ways to combat that is to press into your intimacy with the Lord. And in that, not that, I mean, you're still repenting, like all of that is still happening, but as your affections become more on him, the less you want the desires that are not of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is one thing to be constantly trying to like push down or resist desires that are evil, but we tend to desire, right? And we tend to desire them because we like them,
Yeah.
right? And if we spend our whole life playing defense, it's
Yep.
exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of a reminder to go on offense, which
Yep.
is to turn your affections to Christ.
Yep.
And then when you do play defense, like really try to play it, not just, kind
Yeah.
of halfway.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Which was a great, like the way the Lord just kind of brought each day together was really
Yeah.
fun. And so then we got to Wednesday night.
Yep.
Jamie taught.
Yep.
And so what did you pull out of that?
I really enjoyed, Jamie gave a definition of like normal, and he said that it's the expectant standard, and how oftentimes in our like Christian faith, he was specifically referencing revival, and
Yeah.
how in some ways we've almost lowered our expectation of the movement of Christ to these like pinnacle moments. And then we're like, oh, God did something, he moved.
Yeah.
Instead of the expectant standard being the gospel is transforming, lives are being changed, the Holy Spirit is moving in power, that almost as the church, we've lowered our expectations of what Sunday should look like, what a week should look like, and how we need to raise our expectant standard. Our definition of normal should be higher than what it
Yeah.
is right now. And that was something that I feel like really challenged me, because I think even for myself, I get really excited for the moments that God's going to move.
Sure.
Like church week, we're like, oh, it's a different week. Like God can do a different thing. And that is true. There is something to be said for setting time aside, but God can move in any week. And so not boxing him into like, well, my expectant standard is this, and kind of elevating that to every week God can move in a powerful way. We don't need a specific setting for that to happen.
Yeah. Said another way too, whatever you expect to be normal or average, your human nature is that you tend to play to that thing.
Yeah.
And so then to amp up from that thing, you're going to amp up from a degree off of that which is normal. So if our normal expectation is higher, then that which is abnormal will be even greater than that.
Yeah.
So you look at the book of Acts and go, well, there were 3,000 baptisms on one day.
Yeah.
Right. And then another time, right, he said the number was up to 4,000 or whatever that were saved. And you look at those and go, that was amazing. And like, even kind of realistically speaking, like to go from 0 to 3,000 or 0 to that is like, well, maybe the church isn't in shape for that. Right. But if you raise your standard of normal and go, okay, like we expect that God is going to move. We expect that God is going. Why? Because that was, and Jamie's point was, historically in the early church, that is what was normal.
Yeah.
Like there was just an idea that the gospel was going to break into a city and it was going to break through. Right. And by lowering our standard now any type of movement is like, oh, wow, this is amazing. It's a miracle. Well, it is. It feels miraculous based upon the normal.
Yeah.
But if you raise the normal, then who knows where that can go, like to some amazing places. So it was a good challenge.
It was.
He then concluded with talking about how we there's kind of two challenges in this. We need to seek and stand. Yeah. So what were your thoughts on that?
I really liked that. I was thinking through that. Oftentimes, I would say, there are people who their natural tendency is to like stand and speak out.
Yep.
And there are other people who their natural tendency is to be on their knees, right?
Yeah.
And to seek God. But how there is almost this like, maybe even like pendulum of like, we seek on our knees so that like we can swing forward and be able to speak out in accordance with what God is saying.
Yep.
And then we come back and we seek his face again. And how there may be seasons of life that like you sought after God and his will, but it might be time for you to stand up now and start speaking out. And it might be time where you've been speaking up for a while and it's time for you to revisit seeking him. And I just thought it was a really good reminder of that. What about you?
Well, yeah, and I mentioned this on Wednesday night that like if you seek without standing, you can become a coward, and if you stand without seeking, you can become. You call it whatever you want, a jerk. Like you can get off mission, that kind of thing. And I think that there's resistance on both sides of this. Some people will say, well, I'm standing. And you go, yeah, okay, you're standing, but you're like, I don't know, you're just standing kind of weird, right? and you need to remember the posture, right, of how to stand. But then there's other people who would say, well, I don't like the way you're standing, but they're not coming out of a place of proper seeking.
Yeah.
And so they would say, well, I'm not standing like you're standing. And it's like, yeah, but you're also not seeking Christ.
Yeah.
You've bought into the lies of the world. And then for me, the seeking is like seeking the true nature of who Jesus is so that you can stand in a way that honors him.
Yeah.
And as you both seek and stand, and that again is more circular than progressional, as you seek and stand, then you're doing it the proper way. And we should be doing both all the time.
Yep. Yeah.
But I felt like the good reminder for me was that as a church, we have been in a long. We've been standing for a while. I would say earlier this year, we kind of took on more of a kind of a seeking posture, right? So like, studying John early on, studying now all through Romans, and it's kind of more of that like centering. But we have to remind ourselves, not one is better than the other.
Yep.
They're supposed to work in tandem.
Yeah. That's so
or
true.
like you said, the pendulum, like it goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Wednesday night, which was really fun.
It was so fun.
Beautiful night. And then we came back on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And that was also fun.
It was so fun.
Yes. So what do you remember about Thursday?
Well, Thursday we did some announcements,
Yeah,
right?
we did.
Yeah. So two of the main ones, right, being we added a new elder and we added a new staff member.
Yes.
So for those of you who were not there, we announced that Reed Roth will be added onto the elder team.
Yes, which is exciting. This is the first time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun when we were having conversations with Reed about this, Tom, Frank, and I. And he was like, so how do we do this? I'm like, well, I don't know. However we do it, because we've never done this before. So if you're new to Redemption, Tom, Frank, and I have been the founding elders since the beginning. And the way our church is set up is we would say like kind of elder, we say elder-led, almost for lack of a better term, but I would say like elder oversight. And then we are really kind of staff-led and operated. So elders exist in a spiritual role, but also in a practical role to oversee large decisions, purchasing a building, or buildings, and spending of money that would be like designated as savings and those kind of things. So these kind of like big decisions, but also are charged mostly with like the spiritual oversight and health of the church, and then work in conjunction with another team, which is our overseer team, which is pastors that don't go to our church, that play a bit of a role in our church, and just exercising proper spiritual authority over me and over our team. And it's really spiritual authority more than practical authority, because then from a staff perspective, it's kind of my role to like oversee the church and the day to day and hiring and firing and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
So someday never mind. Okay. But I think it's important that people understand this, because sometimes people come up to Tom or Frank and they're like, hey, what are they teaching in kids ministry?
Yeah.
And they're not really supposed to know that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not their job. Their job is to trust me to pick good people, to pick good content, right? And so this can create unnecessary conflicts sometimes when people just don't understand the proper role between elders in this. So adding Reed was just a natural outlet of growth as a church, feeling like we needed somebody else in that role. Reed, I went through some qualifications based on Titus, and went through a couple of them. Like, well, the first one, like, he's a man. And biblically, the role of elder is reserved for men. And so there's that. But then it's also character, faithful service and generosity to the church, the way he has loved his wife, his children. Like, these are all things laid out in Titus that are really important.
Yeah. And it was neat, I will say, as like a church to be able to affirm Reed in all of those things, right? Like reading through Titus and have everyone in agreement that like that is Reed's character. And then also be able to pray for them, not just for Reed, but like also for their family as they kind of step into like a new season, if you want to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a big deal, and we're excited. We're grateful for that. And then we added Daniel as our youth pastor.
Yeah, which is so exciting. And Dan has been working like volunteering in the youth ministry for a little while now. And as someone who's like on staff, it's been really fun to watch him engage with all the youth, even at camp and all of that. It just feels like there's a lot of really cool momentum right now behind the youth group, and like they want to be there and they're excited about what God is doing, and it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, church as a whole is so much it's more fun when you have a vibrant youth ministry.
Yeah.
And I love what's going on back there. Predominantly that happens through Wednesday night youth service. Yep. So if you have a 9th through 12th grader, get them there every Wednesday night, really. From here on out, there will be something from now until Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So you have no excuse. They'll be there. and I'm so excited about what's going on there. So those are 2 announcements. We also announced that we're going to add on to our parking lot again, because we're running out of spots. We anticipate we'll be out of spots plenty in the fall. And then also we mentioned that at some point in time in the future, we may have to launch a 3rd service. And so adding a new addition to the parking lot will allow us to have just better traffic space or traffic flow, because when we add a 3rd service, we're going to have to cut down the time between services, and we don't want to create traffic jams.
Yes.
So we're going to do that. And this latest round of like kind of architectural drawings and stuff, we now better understand the land of the property that we have, so we finally get to build a walking trail.
Woohoo!
Which I'm actually quite excited about.
So am I.
I'm going to have so many meetings on that walking trail.
I know.
Here's the deal. For now on, we're like, hey, Stephen, can I meet? Yes, but bring your walking shoes, because I'm getting my steps in.
Yeah, you are.
Probably will wear my rucksack as well.
I'm embarrassed for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so we announced those. Did we announce anything else? I can't remember.
I don't think we did.
I was there. Were you there? I was there.
Well, you gave the message.
Well, I did. I talked.
Yeah.
I think I had to say things.
But then
we did announce something else. Wednesday nights.
Yes.
So beginning September 4th,
Yep.
actually really beginning August 29th,
Yep.
we will have church every Wednesday night from here on out. So basically the idea is this: from Labor Day to Memorial Day, we will have Wednesday nights every single Wednesday night, starting at 6:30, church for the whole family. I'll be teaching through the book of First Thessalonians, the first semester. There'll be a little bit of worship. There'll be things for kids at all ages, youth group, all the way down. So new ways to get connected from serving. So we'll need teachers and stuff for the kids, and then also just a chance for us to connect every single Wednesday night as a church family.
It's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
Every time we do like some sort of like lesson on Wednesday nights, I feel like there's like so much excitement behind it, because while it is giving up another night of your week, it is a family night, because you can bring your whole family. Every age has something that like is spiritually feeding them.
Yep.
They're growing. There's like excitement, enthusiasm around it. It's like church week, but it's every Wednesday.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's also anchoring for the rhythm of your family, right? Like, you have church on Sunday, and in the world that we've gotten is so crazy that I actually think it's helpful for people to just have like stakes in the ground. And so Sunday is church, Wednesday is church, Sunday is church, Wednesday is church. And now I begin to fill my rhythm, my kids' sports schedules, all of that kind of stuff around the Sunday, Wednesday rhythm. Whereas sometimes when there's like life group or other strategies, and there's still going to be groups and things like that, that's fine. But when there's those other strategies and they're ambiguous, then you never actually settle them down. And so now we're just saying, listen, let's shift back, because this is not a new idea, obviously. And Sunday is church and Wednesday is church. Sunday is church and Wednesday is church. So that'll begin August 29th. It's a new thing we're going to do. We're going to open and close each semester with a feast and worship.
I'm so excited about that.
Which is just sounds
so fun.
Yeah. So we'll have a big dinner that the church will provide, and we might ask you for help and like desserts and stuff, whatever. But the church will provide the main course, and then we'll have a worship night afterwards. So sounds
lots of fun.
I know. August 29th is the first one.
I'm excited about it.
So that's what's going on around here. Let's see what else. Junior Bible quiz. So if you had a 1st through 6th grader, Junior Bible quiz kicks off this Wednesday with a parent meeting. And I am going to be quizzing against the kids this Wednesday. So
those poor children.
I don't like to make children cry, but in this case, I'll make exceptions.
You're going to pretend like you're not going to like winning.
Oh no, I will. I will like it.
You're going to be thriving.
Yeah, I will like it. Yeah. So if you want to see me dominate, you can come out. But bring your kids, otherwise it's weird. 1st through 6th grade can do JBQ. Let's see, anything else going on?
Nothing else specifically going on, but something I want to note about from Thursday night that was really fun. The baptisms.
Oh my goodness. We think there was like 25. We haven't gone back and like counted all the pictures
There
yet.
was 9 scheduled, and then there ended up being,
whatever, 10,
14,
15, 16, something like that.
And that
was there
really
a particular baptism moment that like hit you?
Ooh.
I've got 2.
Okay.
You go first.
So I had to read the testimonies for the first time. I'm just going to be honest. I was very concerned because testimonies hit me so hard.
You thought you were going to start tearing up?
Oh, I wasn't worried about tearing up. I was worried about like in the microphone going like, if it was like the cute, like little tears, fine.
But
I didn't want to be like ugly
and
crying
then you could
in
have
front
like
of
turned
everyone.
it into like a redemption meme.
Because you would have. I know
totally
that.
I
know.
have.
But I will say the one that really got me was John, when he got baptized, he was one of the scheduled baptisms. And when he was talking about his testimony.
John is probably in his late 20s, early 30s, is in the military. Yeah, it was a fun story.
Yeah, and I really liked how he was talking about how there were these like quiet moments of like reaching this point of exhaustion and just hearing this voice say over and over, come to me.
That was the phrase.
Come to me, come to me. And I just thought it was such a beautiful picture of like, God just waiting for us to choose him. Like, come to me, come to me. That one got me a little bit. And then I will say it was really cool to see Tyson and Sarah Stoll.
Gosh, that was a beautiful story.
I know. Seeing the two of them, especially because they were getting married that Saturday.
I know. I officiated their wedding then 2 days later.
So to start off with this like commitment to like proclaiming that their lives were going to be different and not just like individually, but the unity in their marriage, I just thought that was really cool.
It was beautiful. I mean, all of those stories were just so powerful. The 2 that hit me, one was Bruce. So Bruce and his wife Wendy have been coming to the church since we bought the building. And Wendy was here early on painting. She painted a lot of the rooms and was super helpful, all of that. And this is the story of a faithful wife just praying for her husband. And so if you're out there and you have an unbelieving spouse, just keep praying.
Yeah.
Just keep praying. And some people saw Wendy, run up on stage and give him a hug, and maybe like, oh, why are you doing that? Well, if you know the backstory, it makes perfect sense. Like, it's just the faithfulness of God.
Yeah.
And so don't stop praying for that loved one in your life. I mean, that was a great picture of that. And I know their backstory.
Yeah.
And so that one hit me. And then there was one of them that was one of the last three.
Yeah.
And it was a young man. I still don't know his name. But I gave kind of a last altar call and said, hey, if you need to, get baptized, come on up. And he came up. He's probably in his early 20s. And I mean, he was shaking a little bit, and you could just tell, like, God has done something in this dude's heart in the last hour, right?
Yeah.
And so that was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, we prayed. I have a Monday morning Bible study. We prayed this morning just that, like, all that began in these people will continue, right? And that they'll be like the one of the 4 seed that goes in and grows up and resists the temptations of this world and the attacks of the enemy and, all those things, and the fruit grows.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't either. Cool. So a lot going on here. Make sure you're following us on Facebook and YouTube and Spotify, just so you can stay posted, and Instagram, I guess, too, with everything that's going on. If you missed Mike's sermon yesterday, go back on Spotify and YouTube and take a listen to that. This upcoming Sunday, I'll continue on in our Romans 8 series. We've got 4 weeks left. And if you haven't signed up for the Daily Day, go to our website, experienceredemption.com. Sign up for the Daily Day. You'll get morning devotional sent right to your inbox. So much going on. If you need more content than that, make sure you go to cleartruthmedia.com and stay in tune with everything that's going on there. There's just a lot going on, a lot of good stuff out there. God is on the move. Thanks for being a part of it. We'll see you guys soon.
The Redemption Recap is an extension of Redemption Church. For more information about the church, please visit experienceredemption.com. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Oh my gosh.